Hey fellow explorers, it's me Mario. I know it has been a while, but I'm finally back. It took only Italy to win the Euro Cup to bring me back to you. So here I am. I'm ready to explore a little bit more. Probably tonight I'm also going to stream some more Arnak. So here we are talking about the late game. So what's the late game? The late game is basically the last round of the game, and it's when you're going to min-max and spend your resources to get as many points as you can. Strategy is not involved anymore. It's all about tactical grabs, but I mean, it was the strategy you employ that brought you to the point of being able to spend resources in a good way. So strategy is still very important in Arnak, but on the last round, you're just trying to take all the points that you can. So let's talk about these points buckets. I'm going to divide them in three groups. The first one is going to be one-to-one conversions, which is one resource or one value of resource into 1 point. Then there are going to be the amazing conversions, which are above that mark, and then there are going to be the leftovers, which is the category where I put all the bad trades you still sometimes have to take. So let's talk about one-to-one conversions first. There are a lot of them. The easiest one to explain is the exploration one. So when you go exploring, you spend 3 compasses or 6 to get either 1 idol or 2 idols, and 1 idol is worth 3 points. So even if you don't do anything with that idol, it's going to be a conversion. So that's the baseline. It's still pretty good on the last round of the game, so you should still try to go for it. It's not always ideal. It depends on a few things. It depends on your deck, on how many compasses you're able to generate, but it's normally very good because of one reason we're going to see later on. Another one pretty good conversion on the last round is if you can get items that are like the 2 cost items that bring you 2 points, or the 1 cost one that brings you 1 point, or the 3 coins one that give you 3 points. So one-to-one conversions with coins are actually very good on the last round because it's pretty hard to convert those coins into points otherwise. So one-to-one conversions with coins are normally above average because it's really hard to convert them if you have a way to generate them. Sometimes you're actually struggling with coins, so it depends quite a bit. But in the second half of the game, it's pretty hard to leverage coins, so if you can get automobile or steamboat or the that's pretty good. Something you should remember when getting one-to-one conversion with coins is that you spend an action to take them. You have to physically get the item and take it into your deck, and that's going to waste an action. And wasting an action means you might get behind on some other races that are going on the last round. So sometimes it's tricky, even if a steamboat is up on offer. Sometimes you don't want to spend 3 coins on it, often because you don't know if you're going to need any of those coins. So if you have exactly 3 coins, it would be bad to spend them on steamboat and then discover that you're not able to take some amazing conversion. So sometimes that's the reason, and more often than that, the reason is that you are rushing to the top of the track, or you're rushing to spots where you can defeat guardians. But we're going to talk about that later on. There are going to be some artifacts that are going to be one-to-one conversions, but more on that later on. Another common thing you can spend your resources on, which is mostly a one-to-one conversion, is advancing your glass on the second half of the track. Normally the conversion is closer to a one-to-one. It depends a bit because on the Snake Temple it's actually a bit worse than that. Here you're spending 4 resources and you're going to get basically 4 points. No, that's still a one-to-one. So it's pretty much always a one-to-one on the second half. It depends a bit on if you can get additional resources or not from the random tiles that are going to be over here. But more often than not, the second half with the glass is going to be a one-to-one conversion. So I would say that that's probably, those are the 3 most common categories. There's the last one, which is the 6-point tile. Like you're basically spending a 6 value into 6 points. That's alright. I would say this is not something you should try to do. We're going to talk about that in a few seconds. Or actually, I can just talk a bit about it now. So getting a 6-point tile means that you're already here, so you're taking just a 1-to-1 conversion, but you're not like unlocking anything else better. While by exploring, you normally unlock a guardian, which is one of the amazing conversions, and advancing here means that you can get the last step, which is more often than not an amazing conversion. So let's talk a bit about amazing conversions, shall we? So first and foremost, the guardians. The guardians are always in the game the best way to convert resources into points. And while they are still pretty good early on, like in the mid game and sometimes even on the first round, on the last round they are like the best thing you can actually do. So you're basically converting on average 2 to 3 resources into 5 points if you consider that you can use the thing you get from them to snowball more. And that's the best rate you can actually get in the game. So when you're playing in 4 players, it's actually a big fight trying to go for free sites on the last round to be able to defeat guardians. In 3 players, sometimes there are going to be, you can take a look at this game, this spot is still unexplored, but I would say that on average all the spots are going to be explored in 3 players, while in 2 players you can pretty much count on having some spot to spend your compasses on. So in 2 players I would say that compasses are on average a bit better because you can spend them freely on the last round. But sometimes in 3 players you are forced to take some artifacts. Some of them are pretty good, some other are not that good. So exploring is really important on the last round to unlock guardians. And of course, if there are some guardians left on the board, you should try to go for them and try to defeat them. So guardians are the most amazing conversion in the game, so they should be your #1 priority on the last round. That's in my opinion. The only time you don't try to go for like 2 guardians is because you don't have enough resources and you really need to go to the top over here with both the glass and the book. But more often than not, you should be able to defeat 2 guardians on the last round. At least 1. I think that 1 is almost mandatory. It's just as good a conversion to pass upon. The second biggest conversion you can take is the last step on the track. If you're the first one, that's going to be worth, like here it's 8 points, on the other side it's 7 points. That's a very good conversion. Like here you're converting 5 resources into 8 points. If I remember correctly, on the other side it's 1 less. Now here it's 6 to 8 points. On the other side it's 5 to 7. So it's still one of the best conversions you can get if you're the first one, because you're also going to get a resource back, and that might be something even better than just a resource. It might be like an exile on a fear card, so +1 point, or it can be a card draw, which might be worth 2 resources. So the last step is pretty good if you're the first one, because you both get more points and you get the choice. If you're not the first one, it gets closer and closer to a 1-to-1 conversion, which is something you're still going to do most of the time. I would say that in 99% of games you would like to get the glass on top. There might be some cases, some really corner cases, like maybe you can go for 8 guardians or something that's crazy, and maybe don't have the resources to get to the top in a reasonable time, and getting there later on it's not as worth it. So normally I would say that the first guy reaching the top is going to get an amazing conversions, and the other ones are going to take closer to 1-to-1 conversions. The third category you can get more than a 1-to-1 conversion is the 11-point tile. Again, I would really like to stress out how guardians are way better than the 11-point tile. You're going to spend between 4 and 6 resources to get 10 points, while to get this tile you're going to spend 9. So it's worse than guardians. but it's still a pretty decent conversion. As far as tiles go, this is clearly the best one. So if you find yourself not being able to defeat Guardians, but able to reach the top, you should try to get the 11-point tile. It's not always easy, but it's pretty good. A third thing that is amazing to do late in the game with your resources is reaching the top with your book. The book is most of the time better than a one-to-one conversion. Like over here, you're going to spend 4 and you're going to get 4 points plus a card draw, and a card draw is, I would say, worth probably 1.5 value, probably more than that by the end of the game. And the last step is going to reward you 3 points, but there's a jewel. So this step costs you 4 resources, you're going to get a jewel, so you're going to spend 1 resource for 3 points, and that's of course an amazing conversion. So it's a bit counterintuitive, but basically moving the glass on the second half is almost always a one-to-one conversion other than the last step, while moving the book in the second half of the track is almost always more than a one-to-one conversion. It's always an amazing conversion. So late game, one of your plans should be to move the book if your book is already like over here. If your book is close to the start, then it's not worth it. I'm going to talk about it when I'm going to talk about the last bucket, the leftovers. But moving the book in the second half is pretty much always worth more than a one-to-one conversion. And the last thing you can do is getting artifacts that are going to get you a lot of points. Let's see if there's any available over here to show you. There should be, I think there should be Ornate Hammer. Yeah, over here. Like, Ornate Hammer is worth 2 points for 4, but if you can get like a value 3 item, like an item worth 3 points, then you're going to get 5 points for 4 compasses. That's pretty good. There are also a few others like Stone Key that can get you more points than the resources you're spending on them. But most of the time I would say that even the good artifacts on the last round fall into the one-to-one conversions. Some of them are going to give you good resources, like this card is worth 0, but it's basically converting 4 compasses into 2 arrows, and the arrows might be necessary to climb the track, or to defeat some guardians. So that's what you're looking at. Artifacts are going to be conversions, not just conversions into points, but conversions of resources into other resources. So you should take them. It's pretty uncommon that they are going to be amazing conversions, though. They can be necessary conversions, but not always amazing ones. And then there's, I think we already running long with this video, but the last bucket are the leftovers. And the leftovers are the conversions you should not plan for. They happen, and most of the time I would say you're going to take a few of them, but what makes or break your game is how many amazing conversions you're able to get on the last round. Oh well, what's going to make or break your game is your whole game, so your economy, your strategy, etc. But on the last round you should really try to go for as many amazing conversions as you can. Try to take one-to-one conversions, because most of the time they are going to unlock some amazing ones. And you should take the leftovers that you're forced to. So you shouldn't take the leftovers. You shouldn't plan for them. That's it. So the first category I would like to talk about are the 2-point style. Sometimes you're pretty much forced to take them because you cannot get any other good conversion. But this conversion stinks. It's a value 3 into 2 points. And that's something you really would like to avoid most of the time. So take them only if you find yourself with exactly those resources left. But most of the time you should try to spend the resources on other things. So avoid them if you can. Another really bad thing I see people doing in Arnak is advancing their book close to the end of the game. Like if your book is over here, or Well, that happens mostly on the bird side. Sometimes your book is stuck over here because it was necessary to get two assistants, but then you didn't move it because you had other plans. Don't move your book by the end of the game. That's most of the time going to be worse than one-to-one conversions, because what you're going to get from moving the book early on, it's most of the time just economical value, not point value. Take a look at this move. It's like 3 to 4 points. Yeah, you're going to get a golden assistant, which means that you're going to get 2 resources back, but still you spent 4 to get 2 back and 1 point. That's pretty bad, even on the snake side. And it's going to be even worse on the bird side, I would say, on average. While the second half is where really the points are, the first half is just economical. So you should go for it early. On the last round, and I would also say on the fourth round, you should really think hard about moving your book if it's still like on the second level or even on the third level. You should move it only, like, sometimes again you have leftovers and it's better to spend them on the book than on a 2 point style, but most of the time I would rather not do that. It's way better to get other conversions, like at least one-to-one conversions. Take a 6 point tile. Don't move your book if it's like low enough. The last group I want to talk about is spending coins on less than ideal items. While the things I've just talked about, so moving the book when it's low and taking the 2 point style, I think you should avoid most of the time, and sometimes you're forced to do them, but you should really try not to. Converting coins into even not ideal items, it's something you're going to do at the end of the game. Like, sometimes you have a good coin engine that was really worth it in the first half of the game because you were able to get like amazing items just in time and you were able to use them at their fullest. Sometimes, like, take a look at my game here. I had this guy upgraded, I had a hat, I had some ways to get coins, and I didn't have many, but some, so probably I was stuck with a few extra coins by the end of the game, and I probably got some item that was not ideal. Like, I think that I got the whip on the last round, which isn't ideal. Again, it's the opposite of an ideal conversion. It's a 2-to-1 conversion, but still coins are not really worth much by the end of the game. So even spending them 2 for 1, I even spend them. Sometimes you have to like get a machete on the last round, which feels really bad, but those coins are useless anyway. So if you can get good items, that's good, but I mean, you want to dump all the coins that you have. So if you find yourself with many coins, get whatever item it's on offer. Try not to force yourself into that scenario though. Try to spend your coins wisely before, and try not to get too many in your deck, because there's a thing as too many coins. But on the last round, just spend them whatever you want. I mean, again, if you can get good conversions like 1-to-1 or 2-to-2 or even 3-to-3, that's pretty good, but get whatever you can. You're not going to get any point for resources left over, so just spend them. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty easy, I would say, to talk about the last round. There are a few things you should think about. Again, how to spend your compasses, how some one-to-one conversions are pretty good because they are going to unlock for you some amazing ones. But basically, you should strive to get amazing conversions. Take the one-to-one conversions that you can because they are going to unlock better conversion, or just because they are good ways to spend your leftover resources, and do as few as you can of these bad conversions, like taking 2 point style, spending coins on too expensive items. And that's it. I mean, it's not as deep as the early game video that I put out, but I think it's going to be really useful for some people, because I see people getting better at building an engine in this game, but sometimes I see people struggling with conversions on the last round. And the last round is really just about conversions. You shouldn't do anything else. Conversions, conversions, conversions. And timing, of course, because again, if you want to be the first on the track, you should take a close look at what the other guys are doing. If you want to explore and defeat some guardians, you really want to explore first. So be careful with your timing and get good conversions. And that's it. See you next time, guys.